Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here in Northern Virginia, where we're covering the Surface Navy Association's 30th Annual Conference and Trade Show. Our coverage here is sponsored by Leonardo DRS, and we have with us Francesco Valente, who is the President and CEO of Fincantieri Marine Group. Francesco, great seeing you.
Good afternoon, Vago. Great seeing you too.
It's always a great opportunity to catch up at each of these shows, whether it's at Navy League or here at Surface Navy Association. And I want to ask you about the very, very subtle poster that the board you have behind you, which is the FREM frigate, standard European frigate between the French Navy and the Italian Navy with some little modifications. But you guys are in a very, very envied position. You're a prime contractor, well, you're not prime contractor, you're partnered with Lockheed Martin on one version of the Littoral combat ship, the monohull version, but you're also bidding for this frigate competition that the United States Navy is holding. Talk to us a little bit about both of those angles, but particularly what your where you're bidding as a prime contractor, which is the FREM design, and why you guys think that's the right answer for the U.S. Navy.
Absolutely. Yes, we're in a very privileged position. We are happy to support Lockheed Martin's bid as shipbuilders for their derivative design from the LCS Freedom. But we are also the prime, offering as prime contractor the design which is based on the Italian version of FREM, the multi-mission European frigate. We believe we have a great fit with the requirements of the US Navy with our design. In fact, if you look at the ship as is, it meets or exceeds every single requirement published by the US Navy in terms of, for example, survivability, in terms of speed, in terms of range, in terms of room for growth, in terms of quietness of the ship. This is a ship that today could check all the boxes, and not only that, this is a ship that today could check all the boxes while also being affordable and being built within the price cap set by the US Navy. We're very excited to have the opportunity to bring the ship and make it become an American frigate, through our engineers and through our partners. We partner with Gibson Cox as an engineering firm, and with Trident Maritime Systems, to develop, the right propulsion solution for this vessel, adapting, what we have in place. In Europe, as you mentioned, there are already 6 of these ships operational for the Italian Navy. They spent dozens of thousands of hours in operations, and it went hundreds of thousands of miles. They sailed all the oceans of the globe. This is a proven ship, and we think it's a great fit with Navy requirements and what the Navy is looking for the new frigate.
And how much modification is there between the design that is the standard sort of Italian Navy design? What are some of the modifications you're going to have to make in order to make this satisfy what the United States Navy wants, including even on the subsystems level, obviously, because there are some standard Italian Navy features that, for example, the US Navy might not be as interested in?
Well, clearly the model you see here it represents FREM with a European combat system. However, this design is flexible enough to have allowed us to develop variants which accommodate a full Aegis system, for example, or recently we developed a variant which accommodates an Australian, radar and an American, and some American components supplied by Raytheon and Lockheed Martin for the C5000 program for Australia, where this design has been down selected to the final phase by the Royal Australian Navy. So this is a very flexible design. We will accommodate the requirements of the US Navy, and that's exactly what we plan on doing. This is the main effort, basically modifying the top side. Plus, of course, we're well aware that the US Navy has some very exacting requirements in terms of structural resistance, and we have, the right capabilities here in the US, internal and through our partners, in order to evolve this European FREM to meet the US standards.
And which yard would you guys be building this? Would you be building it, for example, in Marinette?
Absolutely. We will be building this in Marinette. Marinette has benefited from years of investment, from Fincantieri, 10 years of investments, we built up the yard from the capacity of 1 ship per year to or 2.5 small surface combatants per year in terms of capacity to deliver. We have doubled the workforce. We have trained the workforce through partnership with local university, local technical colleges. We now have, what we believe is one of the most, if not the most efficient steel shipyard in the United States for the construction of small surface combatants. So it's only logical that we continue to leverage the investments and the talent of our workforce in Marinette to build FREM.
And you're already a Wisconsinite, so we can also tell from your accent.
Well, absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking.
And also you've become very accustomed to the warm weather up there. So everybody here was having a panic attack because of cold weather, and I don't think anybody up there in Wisconsin.
It was not that cold.
So let me ask you about the LCS. This program is in serious production now. More than a dozen of the ships have actually been finished and delivered. Bring us up to speed on where you guys are in that program, because the first 26 ships are going to be of the current configuration, split between you guys and with Austal. Tell us where you guys are on that process right now.
Yeah, there are 5 LCS Freedom class delivered, and there are 7 other ships which are in various phases between testing and production. This is a testament to the upgrade that Marinette went through, and to the ability of Marinette to churn out ships in a serial production. The heartbeat of the shipyard is pretty healthy.
And how many more of these? When does production end? I mean, at what point does the LCS process for you start to sunset? How do you see that? How many more years of solid production do you have?
Well, it will depend a lot from how many ships will be awarded in 18 and 19. In order to bridge, to the frigate, we will need to have at least another 4 or 5 ships awarded. This could be a combination of LCS or other LCS derivative programs, such as, for example, Saudi ships.
Oh, that's right. Because that obviously would you be, and that's 4 ships right now.
There are several ships being discussed. Yes, let's say we're not prime on that contract, so I'll defer to the appropriate.
Exactly. I was going to dive in and say, that's not your department. That's Lockheed's department. You're the one who's building it. They're the ones who are marketing it. But let me shift over to Polar class icebreakers. You guys have that capability in the United States. You delivered Mackinac, which replaced the old Mackinac that was the queen of the Great Lakes. That's now a museum, I think, in Sheboygan. I think is where the old Mackinac is a museum.
With Sheboygan, Wisconsin, of course.
That's right.
Stays close to home.
Exactly. But I think many people don't realize that actually it was one of the most strategically important ships in World War II because it kept all the waterways open in the Great Lakes, which was the industrial heartland of the country. But I digress. Talk to us a little bit about your approaches to the U.S. Coast Guard's contract. U.S. Coast Guard wants 3 heavyweight icebreakers, 3 middleweight, 3 heavy and 3 middleweight icebreakers. Talk to us a little bit about what experience you guys are bringing to the table, how you see that unfolding, and what do you think your competitive advantage in that competition is?
Well, we're actually very excited by these new developments in the icebreaker world. We have been working for the past year or so with the Coast Guard in developing the design for the new polar icebreaker. Because of the size of the new polar icebreaker, particularly the beam, we partner with an excellent shipyard on the East Coast, which is Philly Shipyard, to build the vessel over there. But we will be leading the program, we will be prime contractor, we will leverage our expertise in engineering, which resides in Wisconsin, because as you correctly mentioned, Marinette built the Mackinac, but not only, Marinette also built the ARV, a vessel for the University of Alaska Fairbanks, which has the ability to sail in those waters. And our other yard in Sturgeon Bay has delivered in 2013 the first 2 polar platform supply vessels with Polar Class 7 certification. And that's the US. But then the designer of this heavy polar icebreaker is our sister company Vard Marine, which in fact has designed the Canadian icebreaker on which this is based. And obviously they have ties back to Norway, which, guess what, has some kind of experience with ice. And that doesn't end there, because our parent company in Italy is currently building, a research vessel with with ice-breaking capabilities. Guess for whom? For Norway. So we are very fortunate to have a wealth of know-how about icebreakers. But what I think we want to really do for the U.S. Coast Guard is to very carefully listen to their needs and adapt the design we have to meet the operational requirements of the United States Coast Guard, which are clearly peculiar. And that's for heavy. Then medium icebreaker clearly is probably going to be a size that will be suitable for construction on the Great Lakes, and when that comes, we will be ready to deal with that too.
You have a very cool model of the Canadian heavy icebreaker that you guys are working on, and you mentioned a moment ago. How is the US Coast Guard version going to differ from the version that you're building, for example, for the Canadians?
Well, there are some differences. Most importantly, we're trying to meet their requirements. They have very different operational requirements. The general arrangement has been changed. Some of the propulsion aspects have been modified. We have been trying to listen very carefully to their needs. For example, we shrunk the size of the vessel to meet some docking requirements of the U.S. Coast Guard. So this has been a very cooperative process, where we listened to the Coast Guard, we gave them back a proposal, they gave us feedback, and then we worked again with designers and operators, to try to converge to a design which hopefully will meet the requirements for a long time.
When Fincantieri came to the United States and you guys acquired Marinette Marine, you told us that this was going to be a long-term play on the part of the company to invest in the U.S. market and to pursue business. And you can see that as FREM, you're now beginning that as, for example, a prime contractor. Talk to us a little bit about what the investment plan and your growth plan is, whether FREM is in the picture or not. What do you see as the long-term future, and what's your strategy to grow in the United States, whether it's on the commercial side of things or on the military side?
Well, I think the U.S. is now part of Fincantieri. It's an integral part of our business, and we are definitely committed to stay here no matter what. Obviously, FREM will be driving our growth. We will strengthen our team. We are already strengthening our team with additions starting from our engineering team, our program management team, and that will benefit the whole organization because these skills will be applicable to a number of programs. We talked earlier about the polar icebreaker. That definitely requires also additional skills, but also on our commercial side, which has benefited from a number of record consecutive years in terms of production and growth. We basically doubled the size of the commercial business. We have continued to add resources. And we have actually, last year, we've expanded the size of our facilities in Sturgeon Bay to add more capacity. And now we can use both for commercial, but also to support the government programs, as we've been doing recently with the integration of the 3 sites in the Green Bay area to build the LCS ship. So this is the story doesn't end here, and Fincantieri plans to be around for quite a while.
Let me ask one last question. You are one of the world's largest shipbuilding companies, whether for commercial ships, tankers, passenger ships, which you guys have made quite a reputation on, especially being able to build some of the world's biggest ships, but also do so economically. What are some of the commercial technologies that you're incorporating into military construction to drive down costs? Because there isn't a customer around the world. I was talking to a Navy friend of mine, and what's the #1 requirement for the frigate? And he said, as long as it's less than $999 million, that's the requirement. But it was a bit of a joke.
Yeah, we have already brought technologies to reduce cost of installation of insulation, for example. We're looking at technology to reduce the cost for installing cables, or even the length of cables, for laying cables in a more efficient way, piping technology, and a number of other things that can be done to build more efficiently. If you look at what we've done, it's partly technologies, partly know-how. If you look at Marinette, we cut down 8 miles in the flow of materials throughout the shipyard, which turns out to be a pretty significant gain in terms of costs. So it's always a combination of know-how and technologies. Technologies go back and forth between commercial and military world, the things we learn to make, military ships become more and more quiet, we transfer to the cruise ships, and from the cruise ships, we learn, for example, how to make better accommodations, and more efficient accommodation, and then we translate that into, the military ships. And then, there are a lot of things, in terms of propulsion technology, electrical propulsion, a lot of things going on around the world that, we apply across the board. And
one of the things you told me a long time ago is, in terms of being able to efficient, it's even in the very, very small things. For example, the bridge you guys built to connect both sides of the yard, which was something that was, not a very big investment, but a very important investment to drive the ball forward. Francesco, thanks very, very much. Best of luck in the upcoming competition.
It's always a pleasure.
And looking forward to talking to you again soon, and hopefully visiting your yard soon and getting to see all the cool stuff you do up there.
Looking forward to welcome you and your viewers in Marinette and Sturgeon Bay.
Exactly, and we can maybe do it in the middle of February, which is a very tropical time.
Yes, it's already above 20. It's pretty warm.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.